call your operator.
Have no fear, fellow citizens. The Mediator is here.
Good morning and welcome to this week's edition of The Mediator with me, your host, Brian West. Here to give you the top 8 headlines and developing news stories that made it this week. Now, as usual, give you the top 8 local headlines and developing news stories that made it first, followed by a movie clip, a skit, a trailer, or something that's going on in the community, or maybe some pictures. And then I'll give you the top 8 international headlines and developing news stories that made it, folks. So let's waste no time. Oh, yeah. Let's get to it. Story number 1. Boy Scouts reach their fundraising goals. Andy Gray has a report published November 16th explaining how the first local Boy Scouts art auction raised more than $3.7 million, folks. The amount raised from an art auction is what got this story in. That's a lot of money now, folks. This story, there's more details in the report if you want to check it out. That's why story number 1 made it this week. Story number 2. Youngstown chooses health over business interests. David Scolding has a report published November 19th out of the Mediator informing local residents on Youngstown City Council's decision to say no to Sobey for a second time. The energy plant. Now, Sobey Energy Solutions LLC wants to establish a downtown Youngstown location to convert rubber tire chips into synthetic gas to create steam energy. But because of pollution concerns, Youngstown continues to say no. The entire article is filled with information on why City Council is choosing to say no and is worth a read for anyone wanting more information. So story number 2 made it this week. Story number 3. $1 million for sewer project in Warren. Brandon Cantwell has a report published November 19th explaining how the Trumbull County community is receiving funding from the state for water sanitation upgrades. The report goes on to explain how Warren Township will get $1 million to improve its Meadowbrook sanitary sewer. Now, the project will account for more than 10,000 feet of sewer and serve 71 structures in the township that serves 750 properties. The goal is to provide better water quality, and that's what got this story in. That's why story number 3 made it this week. Story number 4. Another scary local gun story. Ed Runyon has a report published November 21st explaining how a 14-year-old student at East High School was apprehended after school officials discovered that he had a loaded gun in his handbag. Wow. Now, the gun was a loaded semi-automatic handgun with a live round in the chamber. Man. Folks, the fact that a tragedy may have been prevented is what got the story in. That's what story number 4 made it. Story number 5. School voucher program is in the headlines. JT Whitehouse has a report published November 19th explaining how Canfield's Board of Education may be the next Valley School District to join a lawsuit dealing with school vouchers, according to the report. Now, what got the story in is because the Ed Choice vouchers in Ohio, the program allows for state funds to follow students even if they go to private schools. Now, for a district to join the lawsuit, it comes at a cost. The dues are set at $2 per student for each district, which means that the local schools involved have been dishing out some cash. Now, the report goes on to explain how 453 vouchers totaling $2,490,109 have been going to a dozen schools in Mahoning County. Now, the voucher program provides tuition to non-public schools, including religious schools, to any family in the state. Now, the article is definitely worth a read for anyone looking for more information. That's why story number 5 made it this week. Story number 6. Budget woes continue. After a number of levies were shot down by voters, the most recent headlines that made it in to be published are focused on what local districts are doing to now meet budget goals. Dan Pompley has a report published November 19th explaining how Austintown Police Department will use money from its general fund to stabilize their police budgets their police budget as much as possible, according to the report. Now, Boardman has also been in top headlines after an EMS levy was voted down. Folks, this story is still developing because everybody is pitching pennies to meet budget goals. That's story number 6, also made to the top 2 this week. Counting pennies. Big pennies. Story number 7 and the top 2 local headlines and developing news stories that made it this week. Extra, read all about it. If you do not get up this early on Sunday and you want to catch the show, I do post it on the website on our YouTube page at the website on the screen if you want to check out the show. If you don't get up this early, you want to give us some views or some shout outs or some comments, go to the website. Story number 7, the local tax dollar issue is staying in top headlines. Local communities continue to stress the tax problems because when costs rise, that means less money to spend. So that means like every time something goes up or you get charged for something, that means you don't have enough money for yourself. Now, after another multi-page delinquent property tax report was published, the new focus is on cost and the question of are locals and Americans being priced out of their homes and the American dream. That's a big question. You know, if you had all of the money that you needed to pay property taxes, could you imagine the state, the condition that the cities would be in, the bills would be paid, and other things like that? But people just don't seem to have the money. Now, imagine having if you just had the money to pay your expenses, and on top of that, pay your taxes, and but they're saying that the fact that people don't have the money to pay these bills, they don't have the adequate income to meet a home budget right now. People just don't have the money. They don't have a good paying job, folks. This is keeping this story alive because without money, you can't pay your taxes, you can't pay your expenses, and it puts more money on governments and local governments. That's why story number 7 also made to the top this week. Big B. Story number 8 and the top local headline and developing news story that made it this week with love and care, straight from Mediator, from the Mediator's pocketbook around Thanksgiving and holiday season. Here for you to keep you informed locally and internationally, baby, across the United States. Story number 8. How many people have abandoned the local community? Folks, this is a big question because when you have the facts that people can't pay their bills, well, it just could imagine if you had more people to contribute to the tax base, folks. Youngstown's population in year 2000, the year 2000 was 82,026 people. In 1980, the population was 115,423 people. In the 1930s, the population was at its peak of 170,002 people. Now the population is around 60,000, leaving the question of where did over 40,000 local residents go and why did they leave? Folks, this question continues to linger in local conversations on what community leaders are doing, what they could be doing to keep and attract locals to stay home or come back when the costs are low and opportunity is plenty. There's plenty of land, plenty of resources locally. Folks, this story is still developing because many people are wondering why. Where did all that local money, local potential go, folks? Well, folks, those are top 8 local headlines and developing news stories that made this week. I'll be right back with the top 8 international headlines and developing news stories. So don't you go anywhere. You're the Mediator with me, Brian West. I'll be right back.
What does Method8Inc.com Media Center have that I need?
Small prints, event consulting, photography, business consulting, technical consulting, entertainment consulting, fundraising advice, event videography, movies, news, publishing, media, books, entertainment, acting, broadcasting, public relations, access to the visual and performing arts, ink and black ink refills, audio recording, graphic design, theater, minor computer and cell phone repair, and they're located at 5648 Market Street in Boardman, Ohio from 10 a.m. until 6 p.m. every Monday through Friday. The list goes on and on.
Method8Inc.com. Buy stuff, watch stuff, or read stuff.
Oh yeah! And yes, we are chipmunks.
With the approval of the mayor and the city council, I am very pleased to announce that we will be moving forward and using this land to build our very first locally owned shopping center.
Get down! She's coming down! She's coming down!
Welcome back. Now it's time to get to the top 8 international headlines and developing news stories that made this week. Folks, around Thanksgiving weekend, you know, it's going to be so bad. It's probably going to get so bad. People are still talking about the economy and the world money and what people are doing with money. I used to serve turkeys years ago when I got back into the civilian life. I made it a habit to go out Thanksgiving and serve turkeys and go on the truck, and we give out turkeys to poor families. Well, this year, I'm not gonna lie to you, there's gonna be a lot of people in line, including the people who giving out turkeys. You know, when I was poor when I was giving out turkeys, and I was so poor that when I was giving out turkeys, when I used to give out turkeys, I'd take a turkey home. I was looking to get me a turkey. So this year, there's probably going to be a lot of people looking to get a turkey who could be serving turkeys. And this year, you might see some different things going on. Like you may see turkey people handing out turkeys get a little bit militant. Looking at people when they're giving out turkeys, say, if you're going to take this turkey, you better clean my car or wash my tire or do something. Or tie my shoes, polish them. Because we just can't afford to be giving away no free turkeys this year. And if you don't say thank you and your kids are around doing bad things, they can get nasty. This is what you may see this year. Turkey people getting robbed. The turkey people who giving the turkeys, robbing the turkey people in a turkey truck. People are saying, well, if you're going to pay for the gas for this truck, give me some of these turkeys. It could be a turkey nasty season, folks. That's why I'm getting me a chicken this year. Big chicken, big bird, because turkeys is too expensive. Turkeys cost about $40. Big turkey. Little turkeys, I'm not doing it. Well, folks, that's our story this week. Turkey wars for turkey season. Let's waste no time, folks. Let's get to it. Story number 1, Turkey Day. The China story keeps gaining steam. Fortune has a report explaining how corporations are leaving China. The report explains that based on a survey of 166 CEOs and COOs, Bain & Company found that the share of companies moving operations out of China jumped to 69% in 2024 from 55% in 2022. Now, the report goes on to explain how 39% are headed to Indian subcontinent, to the Indian subcontinent. 16% were moving to the U.S. or Canada. 11% were headed to South Asia, 10% to Western Europe, and 8% to Latin America. Folks, the article does say that this has something to do with Trump's past tariff war and the current tariffs in place. Folks, the story is still developing. That's why story number 1 made in this week. Story number 2, the health supply alert. KFF Health News has a headline reporting on how a nationwide IV fluid shortage could change how hospitals manage patient hydration, according to the report's headline. Now, the report goes on to explain how hospitals are now conserving to keep up with demand. The report is long and made it in because it highlights a still growing medical industry issue that has been easing back into major headlines. Folks, this story is still developing. Story number 2. Big headline. Story number 3: American consumer of retail sector of the retail sector. Well, the American consumer and retail sector, folks, is in the headlines. If you did not know, the retail sector has stayed in top headlines. Fox Business has a report focusing on how a growing number of shoppers are facing fraud due to theft. The report highlights just one of the many factors weighing heavy on the retail sector, which has already lost billions of dollars due to tariffs on imports, security upgrades to prevent theft, and legal costs to restructure. Folks, it is clear that the next administration will have a lot of patches to repair when it comes to the retail sectors. That means the stores that are filing for bankruptcies in the whole retail sector, folks. That's why story number 3 made it this. Story number 4: difficult decisions for Trump ahead. Donald Trump, President Trump. Politico has a report focusing on Trump's cabinet and how Trump is facing stiff resistance when it comes to the Treasury Department, folks. The report made it in because of the article's emphasis on how this is an institution that Trump cannot afford to break. There's a lot at stake, folks. The story is still developing. So story number 4 made it this week. Well, folks, are our top 4 international headlines developing news stories that made this week. I'll be right back with the top 4. So don't you go anywhere. In the Mediator with me, Brian West. I'll be right back. Tune in to Methodate's YouTube channel to check out the top interviews that made it throughout the years and months. Visit Methodate.com. Check out all the community interviews if you want to check it out. Methodate.com. Buy something, click on something, watch something, read something, or just sponsor a program. Oh, yeah. Welcome back. Now it's time to get to the top 4 international headlines and developing news stories that made this week. Folks, this week we're highlighting nuclear weapons. And the sad thing about nuclear warfare, the fact that Putin is threatening nuclear warfare. Could you imagine, we're celebrating Thanksgiving Day this week. Could you imagine the world, how it would have been if the Cowboys and the Indians would have had nuclear weapons, folks? I mean, Thanksgiving would have probably never been in existence. So this year, I'll be, as the threats continue, as the war in Ukraine goes on and all the craziness goes on and all the spending and all of the people just spending all this money to war to kill more people. And it's sad how you just, you're looking at it full, and then somebody just says, if you do this, and we're going to start using the nuclear option. Folks, nuclear warfare is bad. It's so bad that I'll probably be celebrating Thanksgiving in a bunker. Peeking out the windows, seeing if I see any Indians. Folks, nuclear warfare is bad, folks. It is so bad that if your babies are born around nuclear activity, there's a chance that one arm could be hanging out their neck and one eyeball could be open and closed. That's how bad nuclear warfare is. Now, back in the day, warfare was brutal. You got knives, guns, bang, 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 bang. Now, a country could just sit back, put a TV camera on your country, and just decide when they want to press a button to blow a bunch of people up. That's sad. The whole country sitting there singing their national anthem while one country is exploding and they get to move on and plant flowers and seeds. Folks, there's a lot to be thankful for this year because I pray for peace. And I made a song about it. We can love. We can be thankful. Yeah. Once the world decides to put down the weapons and live in peace. Let's waste no time, folks. My CD will be coming out on Christmas and Thanksgiving. And it's going to be called We Can Live in Peace and Hug Our Mamas. Let's waste no time, folks. Let's get to story number 5. Live in peace. What did the Inflation Reduction Act do? Forbes has a report focusing on the Inflation Reduction Act. The report explains that if the act is repealed, it would hand billions of dollars to America's economic competitors. The report goes on to point out how the act attracted more than $500 billion in new private investments between August 2022 and August of 2024, pointing out the fact that this is half of the total nationwide private investment. Well, this is half of total nationwide private investment growth, creating more than 334,000 jobs across the country. So I'm sure that makes sense. Thus, going on to point out that repealing the act would significantly harm the economy, according to new analysis. Now, another key talking point is the data showing that repealing the act would hand $66 billion in new investment opportunities to other countries that directly compete economically with the United States, while costing America up to $50 billion in lost exports. Folks, this story is still developing, thus making story number 5 getting into the top headlines. Big. Story number 6, the birthright citizenship story. Vox has a report explaining Trump's stance on birthright citizenship. According to the Constitution, everyone born in the United States is a citizen, but Trump wants to eliminate this right due to the growing attention surrounding illegal immigration and how a lot of people have been abusing the system of law, the rule of law. This will not be an easy task because factual history tells a complicated story about territorial roots embodied in the United States discovery. The continent, once known as Turtle Island, according to historians, had been inhabited by many different explorers and was already populated by Indians before the Constitution was even established. As this story irons out, Trump stands on changing the Constitution to weed out illegal abuse could cause a stir of other concerns and treaties that have already been signed. Folks, the story is gaining steam. That's why story number 6 also made it to the top 2 this week. Big. Story number 7 and the top 2 international headline and developing news story that made it this week. Get up that thing. Story number 7 to keep you informed. Story number 7. The plan to slash federal spending when it's needed the most. USA Today has a report focusing on how Trump and Musk plan to slash federal spending when it's needed the most. The report goes on to explain how Trump plans to establish a Department of Government Efficiency which will make steep cuts to the U.S. federal budget. Now, this includes plans to lay off half of all federal workers in a plan to eliminate 30% of spending in the $6 trillion budget. If you did not know, more than 2 million civilians are working for the federal government, making it the largest U.S. employer Wow. So why cut jobs and not create more jobs for the federal government? This is a question. Well, this is guaranteed money from the government. Other people say, well, you may not get your paycheck this week, but we may be able to pay you next week when Johnny pays his bill. But since the federal government is putting people out of work, he ain't got no money, so we don't know where the money gonna come from. So this is because for years, conservatives and the majority of Republicans have wanted to slash government spending. The report published November 19th by George Russell is definitely worth a read for anyone looking for more details on this particular issue making headlines. Because if the federal government can't pay you, will your employer be able to pay you? Because maybe they may not be able to meet the budget or pay the taxes. I'm sure you get the point. Story number 7, big. Story number 8 at the top international headline and developing news story that I made this week, basically saying that if the federal government can't pay their employees, how will private sector employees be able to pay their employees? Will that, because if the federal government takes the money that they're paying their employees, where would they be able to give the money to the private sector? I guess it all kind of evens itself out. Story number 8, the education story. Give you the top headlines to keep you informed. So you get the point. Here we go. ABC News has a headline focusing on the education department. I get education, I get mathematics, I get schooling, I have to pay the education department. The report focuses on what eliminating the Department of Education would do. I get mathematics, journalism, I have to learn something, pay the bills. How do I pay the bills if I don't have a job? The entire purpose of the report is focused on Trump's plan to eliminate the entire education department and send all education work and needs back to the states. This is according to his Agenda A47 policy platform. Now, this would leave billions of funds, scholarships, grants, and more hanging in the balance for millions already active in the education system. Folks, this one cut would change everything and leave $23 billion in spending abandoned in what the report calls failed spending, because student success rates when it comes to reading and math scores have been on decline in recent years, according to the report. Now, the Department of Education was established in 1979, I believe it was by Jimmy Carter, to facilitate the expansion of federal support for schooling over the years. Now, this includes military veterans, minorities, and those in poverty. Folks, federal student aid awarded more than $120 billion a year. They did this in grants. Just to keep people educated. They gave grants for work study funds, and even they even gave money for low interest loans to about 13 million students, folks. Thus making story number 8 a top international story. If you cut the education department, you are cutting a lot. So let's see how this develops over time. Well, folks, are top 8 local and international headlines and developing news stories that made it this week. I hope you got something out of today's program. I always get something out of doing the research. As usual, I'd like to thank all the news outlets, the journalists, people on the front lines. You deserve all the credit. I'm just the medium, the man in the middle, navigating your stories just to keep people informed. If you do want to show us some support here at Method 8, it does not take much. All you have to do is visit the website on the screen, buy something, click on something, watch something, read something, or to sponsor a program. Or you can stop at the store at 5648 Market Street in Boardman or Youngstown, Ohio, and stop at the store and see my smiling face, buy something in the store, because it is not easy looking over 200 or more stories just to keep you informed. But I do it every week. And Lord willing, I'll be back next week looking through over 200 more stories just to keep you informed. Thank you for tuning to The Mediator this week with me, Brian West. Have a happy and wonderful holiday. Well, Thanksgiving if you celebrate it. Peace.
Have no fear, fellow citizens. The Mediator is here.